When I felt a touch on my left shoulder and a voice that says, I forgive you. And he said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. So I said, what is your name? And he said, Jesus Christ, the living God.
What's up, guys? We're getting into the next section of the Kabbalah, and if you are new to this video, we are reading into the Jewish text just so that we can understand what modern Jews believe today. There's been a lot of flack in the culture and in the news, particularly about the Talmud, the Kabbalah, and what it says about Gentiles, what it says about all sorts of people for that matter, except for the Jews. So there's a common belief and understanding, even an intellectual understanding, that can be proven that the Jews of today are not the Jews of the Old Testament. And that's just been a common argument for the Christian culture as well as the world in terms of identifying what the beliefs are and what is laid out in these books. So we're getting into the next section here, and I'm going to go ahead and read forward. Yohanan Alemano's Kabbalistic Magick, and this is apparently a individual from Florence of Germanic blood, so he's not a Jew by race. He's not a Hebrew by race, so let's read into it. As his name implies, Yohanan Alemano's family were originally of German parentage. His grandfather had moved first to France and then to Spain, from where the King of Aragon had sent him on a mission to the Vatican. Yohanan lived in Florence during the later decades of the 15th century. Just so you know, for some historical context, the 15th century is a very important time. This is around when the Ottoman Empire is rising. Columbus actually went to the Americas for the first time, and also this is during the Renaissance. So this is during a peak time in history where creativity is at its highest peak, where we're seeing all of that beauty that we see today in all of these Catholic and Orthodox churches, as well as the Greek monuments and places of great artistry. So just keep that in mind when reading into this. Yohanan, this character, is from this time, so he is a person of immense creativity, and he's going to utilize that. Alemano's study of the Kabbalah convinced him that events on Earth could be influenced by drawing down these supernatural powers that flowed through the Sephiroth, and that's S-E-F-I-R-O-T. Now, for these Kabbalistic mystics, that word Sephiroth actually has a very deep meaning to it. It comes from the etymology of the Hebrew word sephar, and sephar means to be counted or to recount. And with regards to Sephiroth, they're speaking of the nature of God. This is where these mystical Kabbalists differ with the Christian understanding of Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Those are three persons that all are united as one God. However, in Sephiroth, they liken themselves almost to Eastern mysticism, literally Hinduism, when they describe their God that is above all other emanations or personalities as Brahman, which is like the ethereal soup that is personless and basically emanates himself through multiple personalities in the Hindu religion. Well, Sephiroth is 10 emanations. 10 emanations or attributes of God. And these mystics that have traveled allegedly to these realms to gather information about God, right? And you can see where deception is at the foot of this experience. But they travel to gather information about God through this Sephiroth system, where they would then count or enumerate, which means they're basically going in and detailing out what they are counting in these dimensions that represent God. And in the Sephiroth, it describes a masculine disposition. So it's a little confusing, but that's what they're referring to. They refer to the Sephiroth as the 10 divine emanations, which is how they describe God in their mystical, esoteric way. I digressed a little bit, but let's go back to the text. So Alemano's study of Kabbalah convinced him that events on Earth could be influenced by drawing down the supernatural powers that flowed through the Sephiroth. That's where I stopped. And it goes on to say, this drawing down could be done by reciting the divine names, such as those which are found in a Torah scroll. Mystical minds used to seeing what lies behind the immediately obvious recognized, the divine names are encoded within the Torah's narrative. so that even though what appears on the surface may be profound and sacred, beneath it lies an even deeper, concealed wisdom, the very blueprint of the cosmos itself. And as a Christian, you can say the same thing about the Bible, how the Bible has all meanings. For example, Jordan Peterson likes to take the doctor's philosophical type of approach to the Bible, whereas, yes, that is one truth, but there's also multiple truths, including mystical truth, to the Bible. But that's what they're saying here about the Torah. As long ago as the 3rd century, Rabbi Oshaya Rabbah had declared that God consulted the Torah when creating the world. Okay, grain of salt, guys. Alemano believed that the Torah could also be used as an instrument of magic, using the words of God to your will. When the Kabbalist magician recites the words of the Torah with the proper concentration and having performed the correct preparations, the divine spirit will descend upon him to such a degree that the scroll will give him power to work signs and wonders in the world. So upon his snap of the fingers, he can basically, like a genie, tell when the divine spirit should go within him to work magic, to work works, right? To bend to his will. That doesn't sound like God, right? That sounds like something else. If you're bending it to your will, why do you think people from the East call genies, okay? It's the same thing as a demon. But that's anecdotal, right? It goes on to say, but this can't be achieved by any old Kabbalist. The essential first stage is for aspiring Kabbalist magician to become fully acclimatized to receiving the divine forces, long before he dares endeavor to harness them for practical purposes. Only after repeated exercises will he be sufficiently immersed in the art of what has become known as practical Kabbalah to receive the divine spirit with sufficient intensity to achieve his desired ends. Literally genie stuff, guys, like to his desired ends, bending the will of this divine spirit. Doesn't sound like God's spirit, nor an angel that serves God, okay? Our Christian discernment allows us to see things for what it is, and that's why I'm reading this live. In Alemano's scheme, there's nothing heretical about using the Torah for magical purposes. Nothing heretical at all, just sorcery. Even Moses used it in this way, according to Alemano. Drawing down divine emanations to part the Red Sea. You see, they've literally articulated all of these things to everything in the spiritual realm. When you try to articulate it scientifically, this is why people call the Kabbalistic teachings or the esoteric teachings proto-science. They're just articulating all of the divine, and you can see where evil starts to creep into that philosophy. Evil already crept in when they started bending spirits to their own will. But I'm going to stop there. We're still talking about Yohanan, who's this Germanic person, not of Jewish genetics, who is bending spirits to his will using Kabbalistic magic during the 15th century. Again, like and subscribe if you want to see more about this. This is getting really interesting, honestly. But Christ is King. See ya.